Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, where I bring you the most terrifying unsolved mysteries and paranormal cases from around the world. Today we are discussing the case of a woman who woke up only to find someone else in her room. Before we get into this case though, I want to ask you guys a question. Do you sleep with your door open or closed? Also, do you like to sleep with a night light on, or maybe some other source of light? Or do you prefer complete darkness? Let me know in the comments down below. I personally like to have my door closed and my room completely dark when I'm sleeping, so let's get right into it. In 2017, a Reddit user posted an account of a horrifying incident that happened to her while she was sleeping. The post has gone viral with over 35 million views and thousands of people sharing their thoughts on what could have happened in the comments. But before I share the details of this case with you, please don't forget to hit that like button. If you do enjoy the video, it really helps support me in my work. The story begins with the original poster, Op, stating, "I'm a 24-year-old female, and I live by myself in a one-bedroom apartment. The first strange thing to happen that Op recalls is when she began experiencing regular nightmares. She would wake up in the middle of the night, sitting up in bed, heart racing and drenched in sweat. These were not pleasant dreams either. They were always the same dream of her being chased through the woods by an unknown figure, and she would always wake up just as she was about to be caught. For the past couple of weeks leading up to the incident, Ope had been feeling tired and run down. She had been working long shifts at her job and hardly had any time to relax. So she figured that these nightmares were most likely brought on by stress. She tried her best to push them out of her mind, though, telling herself that they were nothing more than bad dreams. Then one night as she was peacefully sleeping, she woke up to what sounded like footsteps outside her bedroom door. Now, her apartment was located in a quiet neighborhood, so this was odd. She listened intently, trying to make out what the sound was. But it was difficult because her apartment's walls were quite thin, so she couldn't tell where exactly the noise was coming from. She lay back down in bed and continued to try and go back to sleep, but then the footsteps came again. This time they were much louder and seemed to be right outside her door. Startled, she turned her bedroom light on and got out of bed to go investigate. As she walked towards the door, she could hear what sounded like heavy footsteps pacing back and forth. She opened the door and looked out into the hallway, but everything was silent. The footsteps had stopped, and she was now the only sound in the hall. So she simply shrugged it off and went back to bed, assuming that it was just her upstairs neighbor being noisy. But then the next morning, Op woke up and noticed something strange. Her door was wide open, and she vividly remembered closing it the evening before. Not wanting to waste too much time on it, she shut the door and began to get ready for work. But just as she was about to leave, she noticed some scuff marks on the floor and wall near her door. It looked as though someone had kicked the door open during the night. Now she didn't think much of it at first, chalking it up to her imagination. But then the nightmares came back. Every single night she would experience the same terrifying dream of her being chased, waking up each time in a cold sweat. Then one night, as she was peacefully sleeping, she was awoken by what sounded like heavy footsteps. At first, they were soft and seemed to be coming from directly outside her bedroom door. Then they got louder and more aggressive, sounding like someone was trying to kick the door in. Terrified, she hid under her blankets and pulled the covers over her head, trying her best to ignore the noise. Then suddenly she heard the sound of her door splintering and breaking. Panicked, she screamed and buried her face in her pillow. When she finally gathered herself and peeked out from under the covers, she saw a pair of feet standing over her. She screamed again as she turned her head and saw a man standing in her doorway. The man appeared to be in his late 20s and early 30s, and he was staring at her with a confused expression on his face. Op froze, unsure what to say or do. And the man seemed just as shocked to see her as she was to see him. He took a step forward and asked, "What the hell?" before quickly looking around the room. He then looked back at her and said, "Wait here," before leaving her room without another word. Op stayed under her blankets until she heard him come back in and ask, "Do you live here?" To which she replied, "Yes, I live here." "Who are you and how did you get in?" The man replied, "I'm sorry, I must have kicked your door open and gotten the wrong apartment. I'm so sorry to barge in like this." With that, he apologized again before leaving her room and going downstairs. Still shaken from the encounter, Ope called her friend and told her what had happened. Her friend advised her to call the police, but she declined. She didn't want to waste their time with such a ridiculous story. Plus, she didn't feel like she was in any danger. In the morning after, she contacted her landlord to let him know about the damaged door. He sent someone over to fix it, and they also informed her that they had received several complaints from other tenants about loud noises and a broken door during the night. Apparently, other people had experienced the same thing that she had. Later that week, her landlord found out that the man who had broken her door was a tenant living in the apartment directly below hers. He went down to speak to him, but when he knocked on his door, no one answered. When he eventually got inside, he discovered that the apartment was completely empty. All of the man's belongings were gone, and he had left without a trace. To this day, Ops still doesn't know what happened in her apartment that night. The landlord never found out who the mystery man was, and no one else in the building had any idea who he was either. Some have speculated that the man may have been stalking App, but there is no evidence to support this theory. The man himself never acted aggressively towards her. He apologized profusely when he realized he had entered the wrong apartment. After hearing this case, what do you guys think happened? Let me know in the comments down below. I think it's safe to say that there is no reasonable explanation for what happened here. Op's story makes a lot of sense, and there is no reason for her to lie. There is also no way that she could have made the scuff marks herself, because she was hiding under her blankets the entire time. As for the man, it doesn't seem likely that he was stalking Op, because he apologized to her. He left her room, and he even apologized again before leaving the apartment. It doesn't seem likely that he was trying to break into the apartment next door either, since the damage was only on her door and not the one next to hers. So whoever this man was, I can almost guarantee you that he wasn't thinking clearly when he broke OP's door down. Perhaps he was having a mental breakdown, was high on drugs, or maybe he had just been released from a mental institution. Whatever the case may be, though, this story seems very strange. If you enjoyed this case, then check out the playlist I have available. I've compiled the most terrifying cases from all over the internet, and I think you will love it. Now it's time to make your voice heard. Leave me a comment down below. What do you think happened in this case? And if you liked the video, then don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.